Good evening, everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Megan Kokenge, and I am the Director of Enrollment Services here at Nebraska Methodist College. And we are really excited to chat with you this evening about our accelerated nursing program. All right. So before we officially kick off our presentation, I'm going to go ahead and have our presenters introduce themselves. Kathy, do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited to have you all here. I am the admissions coordinator for the accelerated nursing program. So I know I've spoken with a lot of you already, but feel free to reach out to me and we'll connect. Marcia, you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcia Yimby, and I am the ACE coordinator for Nebraska Methodist College. Excited for all of you that are inquiring about our program. Outside of just doing the ACE coordinating, I also teach in a traditional program as well. So I'm on both sides. So I see both sides of the spectrum.
All right, and as I said, my name is Megan Kokenge, and I'm the Director of Enrollment Services here. And I'll be sharing just a little bit of information about our scholarship opportunities, as well as our student support services and things of that nature. And I'll also be moderating the chat and the Q&A in the background as we go through the slides this evening. So just a few things before we start. So we do have a full hour planned for you. This usually lasts a little bit over an hour. We will chat with you about our accelerated nursing program format, the application process involved with the accelerated nursing program. We will walk you through the different scholarships that we have available. We'll definitely leave some time for Q&A. This presentation is being recorded, and also all of the attendees are in listen-only mode. So we do ask that you participate with us using the Q&A button or the chat feature, which is located in your toolbar. And that toolbar is probably located either along the top or the bottom of your screen. We are going to hold questions until the end of the presentation. So if something pops up in the middle as we're chatting about something, feel free to drop that question in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll be sure to address that when we wrap up all those questions at the end. So with that, we do have a few attendee polls that we like to ask our participants, so we kind of know who is in the room this evening. So the first question that we would like you to answer is, when are you interested in starting an accelerated nursing program? So our program starts in the fall. So the next cohort will begin in August of 2022, but we also know that we have students who sometimes sign on early and to learn what they need to start planning for. Okay, so it looks like everybody on the call tonight is interested in learning about fall of 2022. That is great. Most of what we talk about, our timeline does run pretty similar each cycle. So the dates and whatnot that you'll hear will be similar for 2023. So if there's anybody who listens to this on a recorded version, you can just kind of follow along and know that the timeline stays pretty similar. So the next question that we have for our participants is, what is your current level of education? So our accelerated nursing program, we're going to chat about what the prerequisite requirement is for this program. But it's also good for us to kind of gauge what level our participants have on the call. Okay, so it looks like we have a little bit of everything. A majority of you do already hold a bachelor's degree. A few of you have an associate degree. Some of you are have some college credit, and then we have some in the other bucket. That is great to know. And then our last question is, how did you hear about Nebraska Methodist College? Okay, so majority of you found us on the internet. Few of you found us via a friend or family referral, and we also have some Methodist Health System referrals on the call. So that is great information to have. Okay, so I am now going to pass things along to Kathy, and she is going to share some just general information about Nebraska Methodist College.
Yes, welcome again. So just a few facts about Methodist College. We have a faculty to student ratio of about 13:1 students. We do have a cadaver lab, which we have 4 cadavers. And in there, in the anatomy and physiology lab, we also have what's called an animatage table. The overall board pass rate at Nebraska Methodist College is 93.53%, but the accelerated nursing program is at 100%. So you're all in good hands. And then we have gone 4 years without any tuition increases. So we're hoping that remains the same. And then, as you know, we are affiliated with Methodist Hospital, where they have performed #1 performed surgeries in the area. And then at Nebraska Methodist College, we have 40 areas of study. Nursing is our largest program, but we do have everything from certificate up to doctoral programs. And then 96% of our 2019 undergrad students have found employment within 6 months. And that is overall at the college. So some pretty good statistics there. So as you probably know, Methodist College is a private college focused on healthcare education. Like I said, nursing is our largest. We have celebrated over 130 years. We currently have over 1,200 students enrolled. That does include online students for some of our doctorate programs and such, but in person also. We are directly affiliated with Methodist Health System, as I mentioned, and we offer certificate to doctorate degrees. Okay, and Marcia, I'm going to let you go ahead and take over here.
All right, so again, our accelerated program is, sorry, my camera's not on, 12 months, starting in August. Again, just like Kathy said, 100% pass rate for our accelerated program. Our curriculum aligns with the entry level with master's and our doctoral program. So a lot of our students, after they graduate from the ACE program, they'll go work for maybe a year or 2, and they'll come back for their master's and then into their doctoral program. One of the good things about our program is that some students who do admit into the ACE program, they may feel life happens and they need to adjust their schedule, and they transition into the traditional program, which is totally fine. It aligns directly with our ACE program. It's just ran slower than the ACE program, of course. Accelerated, it goes much faster. So a lot of programs are not aligned like that, where you may have to just drop the program totally. But whatever semester that you are in, we make sure that it aligns, and then you can transition into the traditional program. We typically admit around 60 students in each cohort. So each August, we about 60 students are admitted. There are scholarship opportunities. The criteria for getting into the ACE program is you must have an associate or a bachelor's degree in order to apply. So right here is what you will see as far as our first semester. So our fall semester, the big pieces here is that you will take 2 nursing courses in a semester. So every 8 weeks, you will transition into another nursing course. So as you can see, Population Health 1 for 8 weeks, and then you'll go into Population Health 2 the second 8 weeks, and it equals a whole semester. So essentially you're doing obviously 2 nursing courses in 1 semester. For some students, they will need their pathophysiology and pharmacology, so they'll take those as well with their other nursing courses. And then our spring semester, again, you're taking 2 nursing courses. At the 300 level, you're taking more of an advanced med surg, and then you'll go into your ICU rotation, is usually how it goes for the spring semester. And then your summer semester, although we have, we're starting at this cohort, but in your cohort next year, it will be the same. Our summer semester, it works a little bit different. What you see there is what you will be taking in the summer, but we have 2 sections. So essentially half of the group will take their preceptorship first, and then the other half will take their preceptorship the second half of the summer. So essentially what you're looking at is what it would be in the summer, but there's just 2 separate sections. All right, so as far as our philosophy, human being, environment, health, and nursing, of course, we're a nursing school. So we want you to make sure that you treat everyone with respect. The environment will change based off just where you are. Obviously, health and nursing, we want you to have all 4 of these components as you are integrating into the nursing program. And here's a sample schedule. If you're like me, I'm a visual person, so I need to actually see what the schedule look like. And our biggest focus here is to show you that all of our students, we discourage you from working. It is very, very complicated. It's impossible to work as you are in this accelerated program. So as you can see, Monday, you are in clinical all day. All day you're in clinical. Tuesday, you're in clinical. And you may even have Path on Farm as well. So as you can see the schedule, there's minimum time for you to study. And it's usually done on the weekend because you're full and you're tired from just your regular schedule. So there's no room for you to work in this program. And we stress that a lot. We've had students provide us feedback who may have started our program and said, well, I decided that I could work, and decided they had to quit their job because they could not work. They couldn't keep up with the schedule. We know that this takes a lot of time and dedication, and you are passionate about it. So we truly, truly discourage you from working. If you are one of those ones that you feel as if I think that I would totally discourage you from getting into the accelerated program because you cannot work in the program. Your schedule is really full, and you don't want to find yourself trying to work and trying to study at the same time, and then you're unsuccessful in a course. So we really discourage you from working.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and hand things to Kathy, and she will walk you through the application process.
Great, thank you. So most of you may have already heard of Nursingcast. That is where our application is located. So all you need to do is apply on Nursingcast. You do not need to send your prerequisite, your transcripts, your admissions essay, or any of that to us directly. Go ahead and upload it all into Nursingcast, and they will kind of bundle it together for us. And once everything has been verified, then we'll get to review it. Within that application, you will have to do an essay that does require 5 questions. We do require official transcripts from all colleges attended. So that would include if you took a dual credit course or an AP course in high school, maybe at a college or university close to you, we would need to get that transcript also to make sure that that's included. Or if you took a couple classes at a community college, even though you didn't receive a degree, we do need to get all of those transcripts. We don't need master's transcripts unless there was, an odd situation where we would need it for maybe transfer credit, but typically all undergrad transcripts. And then we do have a program career awareness questionnaire. Those are questions like, can you lift 50 pounds? Are you okay being on your feet? Things like that. And then if anyone is an international or non-native speaker, we do ask that you see our website or reach out to me for additional information. So the criteria for the program, we've talked a little bit about that earlier, but you do have to have an associate's or a bachelor's. Now, keep in mind, you do not have to have those completed at the time you apply. Those either have to be in the works, and you'll be done with those by July 31st of next year, or the year that you would start the program. You do have to have a minimum GPA of 2.75. from a regionally accredited institution. So if you're not sure if that institution counts, please do reach out because there are some that do not. You do have to show success in previous math and science coursework. We will look at those courses and see how you are. And we have a matrix that we score the students off of. So we will look at that. And then, like I mentioned, you have to meet the technical standards. And then any class that transfers in for prerequisites has to be a C- or above and a conferred degree by July 31st. Okay. So prerequisites must have an associate's or a bachelor's. Prerequisites courses completed by July 31st, C- or better. And you have to have, there are different requirements for an associate's versus a bachelor's degree. We can kind of discuss the associates. There's a few extra humanities classes. And with a bachelor's degree, those humanities will be met.
Sorry, I was answering a chat. There we go.
That's okay. I can hear you typing. So here's a list of the prerequisites. The English comp, ethics is kind of one that gets people, they may not have had that in their undergrad. And keep in mind, you may have a course like this college chemistry with the lab. That is worth 4 credits. So we have to make sure it transfers in 4 credits for 4 credits. Your college may have a separate lab that might be worth 1 credit, and then the chemistry class itself might be worth 3. And then the same goes for the A&P 1 and 2. You have nutrition, microbiology with the lab, introduction to psych and sociology, and then lifespan. The intermediate algebra, we do take upper level classes for that. Statistics can be in a number of different areas. Principles of research is kind of unique to our school. So reach out if you have any questions about that. I know our local community college does offer a research class. And then as I mentioned before, if you look up there on your bachelor's prepared students, you do have the 9 credits that will be counted with your bachelor's degree. And then below there are an additional 15 credit hours. The world of ideas, critical reasoning and rhetoric, I do want to point out that's actually 2 classes. So you have to have the critical reasoning part of it and the speech part of it. So again, reach out. It's a little bit confusing, but I can help guide you through it and get you into the right classes.
And I do want to point out, as Kathy mentioned, she answers these questions daily. So we know that some of our course titles are a little bit different than what you might find at your institution, and you're not going to log on anywhere and find anything called World of Ideas, but she can guide you towards what we mean by a humanities elective or historical perspectives or what that might be. But the one thing that I always like to point out is don't assume that anything is going to count. Double check with us. Once you are deposited, we do a official transfer credit review and you will see exactly what is transferred in. Prior to that, Kathy can do an unofficial review and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I always like to point out, and we've had some students where they, think that something is going to count when it's maybe not the best fit or isn't a transferable credit to NMC. It may have been to a different school, but it doesn't meet our learning objectives. So it's never a bad idea to ask more questions than not enough on this topic.
That is for sure. I had a gentleman who started in August and he was right up to the wire because he had done such a great job looking at all of his prerequisites and then found out it was a social psychology class and he thought it would count and it didn't. So he kind of had the last quarter, he was able to squeeze that in and there was a little bit of overlap, but he did it. But Megan made a good point. Don't assume that that is going to transfer in. Make sure you ask. That's what I'm here for. Like I mentioned earlier, so prerequisite courses they have to be completed by July 31st of next year. They do not have to be completed before applying. Another question a lot of people ask is, do you take older coursework? We do. We do prefer those classes to be within 5 years. However, we do not make you retake those courses. You have to feel comfortable with the material. So for instance, if you take a introduction to psychology and you feel very comfortable with that, we're not going to make you take it. However, if you take have taken a chemistry class over 10 years ago and you're not working using that, that might be something you might want to brush up on. We talked a little bit about knowing if you had the right classes. We do have a program called Transferology, and most everyone probably has received a link from me that kind of will guide you through and how to log into Transferology. You create an account and you can put your classes in there to see if those have been transferred. And again, I can kind of walk you through the steps with that. And then we do a transcript evaluation after a student has applied and been accepted and deposited. So that will be an official review from the registrar. So once that deposit is done, that will be official. And then the last question is, should I take pathophys and pharmacology early? So we do offer that as a option for our students. As Marcia pointed out, that first semester that you start is very full. And if you are done with your prerequisites by the summer before you start the program, you can actually take that pathophys and pharm early at NMC. Those classes are always offered online. There are some prerequisites to that, so you want to make sure that you have all those done. But if you're sitting pretty good and you have all those prerequisites done, I definitely recommend taking those early. They're very helpful for that first semester, and it'll just kind of lighten your load. So deadlines, why do we have so many deadlines? Well, we do have different deadlines because we have a priority deadline, which is November 1st coming up. That way, the nice thing is that we're here, you'll get an official review. You'll know exactly what classes have been transferred in. We will work with you step by step, making sure that you're on track to complete and that there's no surprises at the end. Also, the good thing is that you will have access to scholarships and different opportunities that will come about before then. And then the final deadline is January 12th. And we do stick to that. We have a lot of applicants that come in and we do review after each deadline. So after the 1st of November, we will start reviewing. And, it's just kind of a peace of mind that you know that you've been accepted. And then January 12th is the deadline. Also keep in mind with Nursingcast, when you do an application, it's not just instant. If you apply on November 1st, we will not get your application completed on November 1st. It takes some time for your transcripts to arrive and for everything to be verified. So we like you to do it a few weeks early so there's no surprises.
Yes, all great points. Thank you, Kathy. That is very helpful, and I'm sure I know we've already had a couple questions come in the chat that we're gonna address at the end. So Perfect. With that, we're gonna chat next about scholarships. And as Marcia mentioned, it is highly discouraged to work while you're in the program. And we know that is something that is probably one of the most difficult decisions for a student to make when they're considering starting an accelerated nursing program. Because while you're in school, we also know that life goes on and that bills are coming in and, there's lots of other obligations outside of school. We do have a couple different scholarship opportunities for our accelerated nursing students. So the first scholarship opportunity we're going to chat about is called our Upfront Merit Scholarships. So this is a scholarship that is awarded to you at the time of admission. So when we review you for acceptance into the college, we also review you for an Upfront Merit Scholarship. And this is since the program is a year in length, these scholarships are divided over your time in the program. So if you are admitted and you have a 3.0 GPA to a 3.29, you're going to be awarded $3,000. If you have a 3.3 to a 3.59, you're going to be awarded $5,000, and students with a 3.6 or above will be awarded a $5,000 $1,000 scholarship. There's no application required for this scholarship. As I mentioned, it's just assigned at the time of admission after we review your materials. And this is a cumulative GPA, so it's based off all of your colleges attended. The only requirement is that we do require all recipients of the scholarship to have their FAFSA on file by June 1st, so of 2022. So it's not a condition to receive, to be reviewed and receive the scholarship, but it is the FAFSA is required to be awarded the scholarship. So that is one scholarship that is available to our students that really, the only condition is you've been admitted and we review you, and then we make sure it gets applied to your account is that you have that FAFSA on file by June 1st. The next scholarships that we have, so we do have a one-time scholarship for students who may have been initiated into Phi Theta Kappa. That's an academic honorary at the community college level. So you would work with Kathy to verify that membership. We are also affiliated with United Methodist Church. So if you are an active member of the United Methodist Church, there's a one-time $1,000 scholarship. And again, you would work with Kathy to verify that involvement. We have what's called the NMC Legacy Grant, and this is for students who either maybe their parent or sibling is a graduate of Nebraska Methodist College. You would be eligible for a one-time $2,000 scholarship. And then a larger scholarship that we have is the Kathleen Montgomery Scholarship. So this is worth $7,500. This is the one scholarship that has a application required. So this application is due on January 12th. You must have a completed admissions scholarship on file as well. So that's where that January 12th admissions deadline is so valuable. We tell students definitely, if you don't aim for the November 1st deadline, aim for the January 12th, because we will review all candidates who have submitted the Kathleen Montgomery scholarship application, as well as have a completed admissions application on file for this award. I believe it ranges from year to year, how many we have. I believe last year we had 9 scholarships that we were able to allocate. The application for this scholarship will open on November 1st, and it will be located on our website. The other nice thing is all of these scholarships that I just talked about are stackable. So what I mean by that is if you get the $7,500 Kathleen Montgomery scholarship, and you also get maybe the PTK scholarship and the Upfront Merit scholarship, those will all be stackable and assigned to your account. All of our scholarships require that you have that FAFSA on file by June 1st. So the summer before you start classes. So the cost of the program, so this cost here is the total cost for a year, and this is based off our 2021-2022 cost of attendance. So the average cost for an ACE student is around $42,000, and that includes tuition and fees. The average cost of textbooks and supplies is around $2,900, and that includes things like books, supplies, things like your stethoscope, that sort of thing, scrubs, all of those different things that add up. So the estimated total cost for the program is around $44,900. So just a few reminders about cost and financial aid. So we do encourage students to fill out the FAFSA. It is required to receive federal financial aid, as well as have our internal scholarships applied to your account. NMC's code is listed right here. It's also listed on our website, and that 2022 FAFSA has opened. It opened on October 1st. The other thing I always like to point out too is we do have a dedicated financial aid counselor that works with our accelerated nursing students. So that is great, because there are definitely unique questions that arise with accelerated nursing students, because most of the students have a previous bachelor's degree. So that requires you to answer questions a little bit differently on your FAFSA than when you completed it prior to your earning a bachelor's degree. And she's just also very familiar with the 1-year length and schedule and all of that, as far as how things are dispersed and whatnot. So it is nice that you'll have that one financial aid counselor throughout your time here at NMC. I always like to point out Education Quest. Education Quest is an excellent resource to research external scholarships as well. So we shared with you some of our internal scholarships. But Education Quest is another great resource that has different external scholarships available. So I encourage students to start taking a look at that and see what might be available and what those program deadlines are and whatnot. Okay. So the other thing I always like to touch on too, because we showed you the schedule and it's jam packed. You're going to be super busy. And we've talked about, how you're going to be going from 6:30 in the morning to who knows what time. But I also want to talk to you about all the different services that are available to you while you're at Nebraska Methodist College. So you will have a dedicated academic advisor, and that's actually our director of advising, Neil Volker. He's a wonderful resource, and he is the person who will help you get registered for classes, walk you through the steps to get set up at Nebraska Methodist College, and will be there for you throughout your year at the program from a student services side. Also academic support services. So we have a really robust academic support office, and some of the things that students often seek out help with are things like time management. So in accelerated nursing, this is a hot topic because you are managing clinical and class and pre-lab and then also whatever commitments you have outside at work. So if that is something you're struggling with, our academic support office will help you with that. We offer support in things like testing strategies. So being a nursing student, testing is very different than other majors. So you're going to be prepping for that NCLEX board exam from the very beginning. And the way that test is set up is very different from probably any other test that you've ever taken. So some students need some additional testing strategy support, and that's something that our support services offer. We have tutoring available, so one-on-one tutoring as well as supplemental instruction. Writing resources are available as well. And then we do have a counselor on staff for our students. And we also subscribe to student support, student assistance program, which is very similar to employee assistance program, where there's counselors available 24/7 if our campus counselor is not available right when you might need her. I mentioned supplemental instruction. I think this is a really, really awesome resource. This is essentially a second course that's offered outside of regular class time for students who might need some additional help in a class where we have noticed that students might have need additional resources. That is led by a student who's previously been successful in that class and can kind of break things down for you into maybe layman's terms and chat with you about what the instructor might be looking for or what to kind of plan for, and they've already lived it, so they can really explain it to you well. We have 24/7 campus security. We have a wonderful on-campus library that's also available 24/7 electronically. And then we also have a full-service campus health office that has a physician assistant on staff that's available to our students. So that's another great resource. If you're ever not feeling well and you want to maybe go see our PA, or if you need help with some of your immunization requirements or whatever it might be, that is a really wonderful service that we offer to our students as well. So that when we hold these events virtually, it's kind of hard to explain how great our campus looks, but here's just kind of a snapshot. So we do offer campus housing. We have housing for up to around 100 students. I encourage students, if that is something they're interested in, that they should apply for housing earlier rather than later. This last year was actually one of the first years that we had a wait list, but we do have accelerated nursing students who do take advantage of campus housing. It's apartment style living, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. It's literally an apartment complex that the college purchased. So it's definitely not dorm style living. I always like to point that out to our students who have maybe have that degree already, and that's definitely not what they're looking to go back to. It's a full-on apartment complex. We have comfy study and lounge spaces, and I will say our accelerated nursing students definitely take advantage of this because as you saw on the schedule, you're here all day, and we want to make sure that you have spaces to study and relax and work with your classmates in between classes or after classes, or find that place away from home where you can study and kind of really make sure that you have time to focus and focus on your homework and whatnot. We have a chapel on campus. We have a coffee shop and a micro market. Our apartment complex does have a pool that's open to all of our students. Sand volleyball court, a walking trail. We have a community garden that our students are active in. And then our wellness center is actually getting revamped and redone. And that is hopefully going to happen by the end of this year. So it'll definitely be ready to roll by the time that this cohort arrives in August. Okay, Kathy, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I think we have some commonly asked questions that Marcia and I will answer. If you want to kind of moderate these questions, that would be great.
Yes, I will. So we kind of get a lot of questions about this program, and don't feel bad about asking. I always get students that are emailing me saying, sorry for the question, sorry for the question. It's okay, it's normal. But these are just some commonly asked questions. So we'll go ahead and start. So how soon do we start clinicals when we start the program? Marcia, maybe that's a good one for you to answer.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we always get a lot of students, even during orientation, that ask, how soon do we start clinical? So the first week, we don't want to put you out in clinical the first week because we want to give you a little bit of orientation. We do skills check off as well in our protected simulation lab. And then that following week, we go right into clinical. So it is quick, but the first week, we do allow you some time to learn the skill and to get your uniforms and to ask your questions before we go out into the clinical area. I do want to add, it's at the bottom. I'll just wait till that question comes up at the bottom. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, so is this a competitive program?
So I would say yes, it is. So we do have a limited number of seats. So we have a limited number of clinical spots and a limited number, and we also have, we are a small, intimate class. We have a limited number of seats in the classroom. We don't have any large lecture halls here or anything like that. So we do have a limited number of students that can be admitted to the accelerated nursing program. I always tell students, if you're not sure if you're going to be a competitive candidate, work with Kathy and she will walk you through what that might look like. She's been doing this for a couple years now and can give you a pretty good gauge on if accelerated is a good fit for you or maybe traditional. And also, we are more than happy to offer coaching as to what could make you a competitive candidate for the accelerated nursing program. The biggest things that we look at are cumulative GPA and your math science GPA. We also will look at things like, have you started and stopped classes several times? Like maybe have a lot of withdrawals on your record. Have you previously started a healthcare program before? That's something that we'll look at. But we also definitely review holistically. So we completely understand if you're a candidate who maybe had a rough go your freshman year and now have, come along and grown up a little bit. And what we look for is a consistent improvement. Yourself, and now you've had 3.5, 4 years that were good consistently. We take that into account. So that's something that I always like to make sure and point out that all love is not lost with that. We understand that everybody has learned, sometimes it takes you a little bit to figure out what you want to do, and sometimes there's some maturity involved, and we do take that into account. Now, I will say too, I say the word consistent. So if we see transcripts and they're up and down, and one semester they're really good, and the next semester they're not so good, and we're really going to look for a consistent improvement if there were some maybe poor earlier semesters.
Great, thank you. So can you tell me what are some of the health and compliance requirements?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a healthcare major, you're going to have a couple different hoops that you're going to jump through that you probably didn't have with your previous degree. So for instance, all of our majors are required to do a background check because you're going to be going out into the clinical community, out into healthcare systems. So a background check is required, and you will do that prior. You usually do it the summer or the couple months before classes start. You are also going to be required to complete CPR before you start classes, and we will help you get set up with that CPR class and everything. You will do a drug screen. So all of our students who go into the clinical environment do a drug screen prior to starting. And we have what's called ACE Jumpstart, and this will take place probably in May. And this is where we start to walk students through all these requirements and all these steps that you're going to do over the summer to get ready to roll when classes start in August. That's also where we will also start to share our health requirements. So ours, as a healthcare major, you will have your different vaccinations and immunizations that you'll have to have on record. So for instance, you'll have to have a TB test as a prospective nursing student. That's probably not something you had to do as maybe a history major at a different level. We are requiring the COVID vaccination because our clinical sites are requiring the COVID vaccination. So that is another health requirement that our students are required to complete.
Great. I was just going to add too, with the BLS classes, we do offer the CPR here at the college. So once you're accepted and deposited, we will let you know as soon as possible on those dates. There are limited seats on that also. So that would be something that you want to do. Those are typically offered free of charge for the accelerated students also.
Yep. And we usually actually offer it the morning or the afternoon of that ACE jumpstart. So a lot of times students will attend that and then they'll go to their CPR class afterward, or if it's in the afternoon beforehand. So.
Right. Great. So can I complete my prerequisites at a community college?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. And I think the next question is prerequisites too. So you absolutely can complete your prerequisite requirements at a community college. And you also do not have to have all of your prerequisites done before you apply, because there are a lot of prerequisites. But we do ask that you have started your prerequisites, because a lot of those courses need to be taken in sequence. So for example, you need to take A&P 1 before you take A&P 2. So that does require some planning. But absolutely, a lot of our accelerated nursing students complete their prerequisites at some of the local community colleges here in the area or beyond. And we also understand our students are coming to us with a prior degree, and some of those are completely unrelated to nursing. So you are not going to have, if this is a decision you're just now coming upon, you probably haven't taken all of these science classes or whatnot. So we just want you to have a plan in place.
Great. So what do I do if the accelerated program is not the right fit for me, like after I start the program?
So Marcia kind of touched on this. Do you want to chat about the transition to traditional, Marcia, if they decide that ACE might move too quick for them or whatnot?
Sure. So we all know that life happens, and sometimes you get into the accelerated program and things happen, and you need to move into the traditional program. Depending on where you are in the semester, again, you're taking 2 nursing courses in one semester. So if you decide the first 8 weeks, okay, I don't think I will continue to the next 8 weeks, you will just, if you're passing, we'll just say finish out that course. If you're not, then we'll just have you drop that last 8 weeks, and then you'll start up wherever you left off at in the traditional program that following semester. I've seen some students who, I'll just give you an example. Some students, they have babies, and they've gone for an extended period of time, and then they can't catch up. So they just go ahead and they will transition into the traditional program after that semester. They'll go ahead and transition. Too many T's. So I would say it is a smooth process, because it's not unlike some of the other programs that may not allow you to do that. All we have you do is just fill out why you want to transition into the traditional program. And then we just have you set up with the advisor, and then we'll get you started in the traditional program. So it's a smooth process.
We have
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. One of the reasons I always really like to point this out too is this is very unique to accelerated nursing programs. This is not common. We're one of only a few programs in the country that have aligned their accelerated nursing program seamlessly with their traditional nursing program. Your prerequisites are also going to align with the traditional program. So all of those courses that you took prior to starting accelerated are also similar to what we require for our traditional program. But yeah, it's something that has worked really well for a handful of our students each year take advantage of it.
Great. That's exactly what I was going to say. So thank you for covering that.
Yep.
So the next question is, can you tell us where we would do our clinicals?
Sounds like a question for me.
Yep.
So we primarily do our clinicals at Methodist Health System. We also have contracts with CHI, Nebraska Medicine, and we have reached out to some of the rural areas where they have like critical access hospitals. With those critical access areas, they have emergency department, and they may have long-term care, and then like a med surg unit and an IC unit all in one small area. So some students enjoy going out there because you can get all of that experience in one site. But primarily we go all over. I know students have asked questions about, do we take in consideration where you live and how we place you in clinical? If we had 60 students who lived all over the Omaha area, it would be definitely hard to place people where they live, like closer to where they live. So we just put you in clinical groups, and then we send it out to students. We're just very transparent about that, so that some students don't feel like, oh, we've played favoritism to one another. We don't. We just put you in a clinical group, and then we expect that you know that we go to all areas of Omaha for clinical. And then as far as clinical schedule, I'm just going to skip down to clinical schedule. So another question that happens a lot once students get admitted and then they're ready and they're waiting for their schedule. Typically our sites that we go to for clinical, they let us know the latest 2 weeks before classes start on where you're going to have clinical. So a lot of times students, they get very excited. They want to start putting things in their calendar, but we don't know our actual clinical schedule until our sites actually approve us. And we usually don't get that. The latest is 2 weeks prior to school starting. So I know that's usually a hot topic as well. So we're not holding nothing from you. We have to wait until we actually get approval first before we can let the information out.
Great. And I was just going to add too, for those of you who are not familiar with the Omaha area, I mentioned earlier that Methodist is one of the largest health systems. We do have 2 hospitals in Omaha. We have the main campus and then the women's campus. So just so you're familiar with that, when Marcia mentioned where we do clinicals at.
Mm-hmm. So it's on here and we did address it, but can I work? And I think we had a question in the chat as well. Can I work while enrolled in the accelerated program? So we don't like prohibit anybody from working, but we do highly discourage it. And the one word of advice that I always give students is, you just because you're in class, but then in clinical, but then you are also doing things like what we refer to as pre-labbing, where you're getting ready for clinical the next day, or you're doing your homework or whatnot. I always say if there's something where you have to, you need to start small. And then if you think you can add stuff in, add it in. But where we have seen students struggle and is where they think they can do it all. And then by the time they try to pull back, it's too late. The other thing I always like to point out with this group is our accelerated nursing students are a very high achieving group of students, and they have usually very typically managed several different things at one time before starting ACE. And we will commonly hear, well, I worked full time while I was doing my first bachelor's degree. I can work full time while I'm doing this bachelor's degree. And when I say it's different, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's very different than a traditional major. So we're just very transparent with that. And we have a very high success rate in our program. And one of the reasons I attribute that is we're very, very transparent with things. And we just really want to make sure that students know kind of what they're signing up for. And I always say you can do anything for a year, right? So one of the reasons we start having these conversations early too is so students can start planning ahead, whether that's financially, living situation wise, or even just preparing their significant other or family members for the time commitment that you're going to have. Because we talk a lot about the work commitment, But one of the things too that we touch on even more on is even the social commitment. Like you might not see some people as often as you would like, because you're going to be with your new family, which is the ACE cohort. So that's just another thing that we always like to point out as well. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and transition to questions that have come in, and we've already had some good questions come in via the Q&A in the chat. So the first question is, are students permitted to maybe work as an assistant nurse, so as a CNA or a graduate assistant? So as we mentioned, we cannot prohibit anybody from working, but we do highly discourage it, just there's only so many hours in a day. And we just want to make sure that everybody understands the time commitment. So the next question is, how should we submit transcripts if classes are still in progress and grades are not finalized via the Nursingcast? Transcripts must be submitted in order to submit the completed application. That is a great question. So there's kind of two parts to this, and Kathy, tag on because you're in here a little bit more than I am. But so when you fill out Nursingcast, it will ask you, at least for the NMC application, there's a prerequisite section, and it asks you to list whatever class you've either completed or are planning to take to complete that prerequisite. So if you are still currently enrolled and say have not yet completed that, put the class that you're planning to take, and you would just leave the grade blank. The other reason I encourage students to actually put something in there rather than leave it blank is that lets us know that you have a plan in place. So that's very helpful to Kathy if she sees blanks for the prerequisites, that you are aware of that prerequisite and that you have a plan in place. As far as if you have not yet completed classes, send that in progress transcript, have their registrar send that to us. It'll show us that you're in progress for the fall. It would be probably more than likely the fall 21 semester. And then we, once a student is admitted, we continue to work with them to send and share updated transcripts. Is that accurate, Kathy?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and then we had some come in via chat. Okay, does the college offer health insurance, especially for students who cannot work? That is a wonderful question. The college itself does not offer health insurance. However, we do have some partners that we suggest to students who do offer some plans that are economical for students who are not working. But that is a wonderful question, because students are required to carry health insurance, and it's difficult when you're an adult and you're not working. So that is a very real question. So the college itself doesn't offer the plan, but we work with some local providers that we can recommend to students for health insurance. And then this, another question came in via chat that's kind of similar to the other one. Can we submit our application with some coursework pending? For example, I'm finishing up science courses at Metro. Absolutely, we see that all the time. So definitely still submit those. You will have to resubmit once you're admitted, but that will show us that those classes are in progress. So we, again, know that you have a plan in place, and once a student is admitted, we continue to work with students to submit those updated transcripts. ACE students are submitting transcripts because we encourage students to submit transcripts as soon as they finish a semester, so we can update that prerequisite transfer credit record for you, so you really understand what's come in, or if there's any hangups on anything. You guys are already asking great questions. This is your time. If there's any other questions to ask via the Q&A button, we encourage you to submit those. Is there an app fee waiver for so international students can explore? So if you go to Nursingcast, and I can't remember what tab it is on, but there is an application where you can submit to waive your application fee through Nursingcast. And I can't remember exactly where it is in the application, but if you look on your Nursingcast application, they do have some information for students to to apply for a waiver for Nursingcast. Kathy, are there any other commonly asked questions that we're forgetting?
I think one just popped up and I missed it, but it said
Yeah,
something,
true.
how many applications do we typically see? Was that the question, Megan?
Oh, so that was one that came in
see
via
it?
chat. So how many applications do you typically see each cohort compared to the 60 spots? So that is, it just depends on year to year. I would say definitely over, I'm trying to think last year. I mean, and 2021 versus 2020 was different. I'd say easily well over 100 applications will come in for the seats. But I also, and again, total transparency, we have some students that we admit, but they don't, like, we pick them, but pick us. So we have students who decline us too. So, maybe there's a program that's closer to home, or they decide on something else, or they decide that, nursing isn't the right fit. So I say that, but also know that, that number is fluid. It can change too. So.
And one thing with that too, I think I've found like students, especially with COVID and everything, financially, they get to that point where they've accepted us as the college and then realize that they don't have the funding to pursue it. So some of those students also have decided to go ahead and apply for a traditional then, because a lot of them can work up to 20 hours a week. So that's an option also, but that's definitely one of the reasons why we, some of those students did not start.
Okay, another great question came in. If we take Patho and Pharm before the program, we don't need to take it in the program. That is correct. So what we have put together is, we started doing this a few years ago, where we offer Patho and Pharm over the summer term. It starts in May. Right? May. I had to think about that. So about mid-May. And if a student is at a good point, so meaning they have A&P1 done, A&P2 done, micro done, chemistry done, all of those other science courses done, they can take Patho and Pharm early with us over the summer. And then that first semester, you would not take it as a part of your first semester in the accelerated nursing program. So our students who have done this highly recommend it. It helps lighten your load that first semester. You can kind of focus on your nursing classes a little bit more. I also like to point out, because some students, it's really difficult to get to that point because they might not have yet started on their sciences or whatnot. It's not a deal breaker. It's not something that's required, but it's encouraged. And like I said, our students have highly recommended it. In fact, they're kind of the ones who got us to thinking about it when we started it a few years ago. Are installment tuition fees acceptable, and what's the acceptable payment plan? So you can set up a payment plan with our business office. They would start to work with you. I believe they will start working with students over the summer if they want to break up those payments and pay their tuition in installment plans over the semester. So you would just have to have that semester's tuition paid by the end of the semester, but the business office would work with you to set up installment payments for tuition. And that's something that our students do frequently. Another great question. You've mentioned it, but is there a wait list? Yes, we will have a wait list at times. So that's another thing we like to point out. I will share a little tip, I guess. Students who apply earlier and meet the criteria and who are a good fit are less likely to end up on the wait list than those who apply later. So I really encourage students to shoot for those deadlines, because we have seen really strong candidates who have either applied too late or missed a deadline, and sometimes they'll sneak in and we'll still review them, but they'll be put on a wait list. So we do have a wait list, and that's where it is fluid. So if a student declines us or decides they aren't going to attend here, then we offer the next student on the wait list, and that wait list is managed by, we have a matrix. So all of our applicants are reviewed on their cumulative GPA, their math science GPA, their admissions essay. I always like to point that out. And we look at all of that in culmination, and that's how we distribute our seats. So Kathy did mention our admissions essay has 5 questions. Definitely pay attention to that writing prompt, because that is a part of what our applicants are scored on. We have in the past who maybe have tried to maybe retool an essay that they're using for another program, or maybe just didn't address the questions. And that could be an issue then in your ranking. So make sure you answer the written statement questions and all of the questions. So you mentioned something about students needing insurance for the program. Yes, I did mention that. So that is one of the health requirements. Our students are required to carry health insurance. And again, that's a clinical requirement. Students have to have health insurance to go into the clinical environment. So that is something, if students need assistance with, we offer, we can chat with you about what some of those options might be. All right, Kathy, I'll read this one and you can answer it, because I don't want to speak on your, how long will it take to hear back if you're accepted or not?
So typically we say that it can take up to 6 weeks after the deadline. I can tell you that when applications are completed and verified in Nursingcast, we start reviewing them right away. So I actually accepted my first students today. If you submit your application on November 1st, it's going to be probably longer, because there will be a greater number of students that will apply right in time for that deadline.
So we really try to be timely with our admissions decisions, especially with the ACE students, because you have a lot of things that you need to do if you decide you're going to pursue this. So for instance, we set up our admissions deadlines based around when area community colleges are going to start their new terms. So for instance, for those of you in the Omaha metro area, you're probably familiar with Metro Community College. We want to make sure that you know if you're admitted or not, so you can make that decision if you're going to pursue and complete those prerequisite requirements. So there's just a lot of different hoops that you need to jump through. We want to give everybody plenty of time to get everything done and feel comfortable with everything. Okay, let me see here. I think there was one I may have missed here. So another great question, Kathy, I'll throw this one to you again. Should our essay be organized by question or flow more like a paper?
Either one. I leave that option up to you. I always say, as long as you answer the questions, whichever format you prefer is fine.
Make sure you put your name on your document.
Yes.
That's something that commonly gets missed, and it's more of a pet peeve than a grading thing. But if you write a really awesome essay, we want to make sure that you get credit for that. The other thing that we always want to point out is that more isn't always best and less isn't always great. Make sure you're professional, have somebody proofread it. And when you're applying to several programs, things kind of start to get mixed in the shuffle, but we've seen essays where they refer to other colleges and our essay and whatnot. And just make sure you have everybody take another look at it for you, so that you're putting your best work forward.
Well, and to add to that also, when we are doing our matrix, we take the overall score of your overall GPA, your math and science, and your score for your essay. So say you score really high in the grades, but then you score lower on the essay, that's also going to bump you down on the scholarship matrix also, because if your overall score is not as high. So if you do well on that and answer the questions and no spelling mistakes and things like that, then you'll score high in all those areas. So it really can bump you up to the next level.
So we had a question come in: can international students benefit from financial aid or funds? So international students are eligible to apply for the Methodist internal scholarships. The one thing we briefly mentioned international status in the application process parts. I one thing I would like to point out, and again, there's lots of information about international students and non-native speakers, so it's too much to cover on this call alone, but our accelerated nursing program is not available to F1 students. It is not one of our approved programs on the F1 list. So if we have any F1 students on the call, unfortunately, the accelerated nursing program is not currently on the approved CBIS list. All right, are there any other questions? This has been great. Okay. So this presentation has been recorded. Kathy will be sharing this out with everybody who registered for the event, and we also then post it to the college's YouTube channel. So if there is any questions that pop up after we stop the call, please feel free to let us know, which leads us to our next steps. So definitely, if you are interested, contact, and Kathy would be your admissions coordinator, and she is more than happy to hold one-on-one appointments with candidates. And she's doing that in person, virtually, over the phone, right, Kathy? It's whatever
Correct.
Works best right now.
Yes.
So if there's things where you have more specific questions or you just need a little bit more information, let us know. We're happy to hold that meeting. If you have not yet started a CAS profile, we encourage you to do that. It is kind of a lengthy process. There is a lot involved with it. So I would take a moment to log on to CAS and start that and start your application. The other thing with CAS, the one thing I always tell students is do the things that you don't have control over first. So one of those things is transcripts, because you're going to fill out something where Nursingcast essentially requests transcripts on your behalf. And sometimes that can take a while depending on how well staffed that college is or whatnot. So things like that are something that you have control over or that you don't have control over. I encourage people not to procrastinate that part when it gets close to that deadline. Start reviewing your transcripts for prerequisite courses. So we went over all the different courses that are required prior to starting this program. We often joke that it's kind of misleading because we call it an accelerated nursing program, but you all work really, really hard for a good amount of semesters prior to even starting the program to make sure that all those prerequisites are checked off. So start looking at your transcripts and thinking of what that plan might be to complete the required prerequisites. And then we've shared Kathy's contact information below, and many of you have probably already heard from Kathy, but if you have any one-on-one questions that you need answered, she's more than willing to help you with those things. So with that, we are going to go ahead and sign off for the evening. Thank you all for joining us. You all asked wonderful questions, and we really look forward to working with you. And please let us know if we can offer any other assistance. Thank you, everybody.